We started this season because as much as we wanted to believe that it was Pride and Prejudice and Jane Eyre that bore us into our sense of selves, we know that it is just as much How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days and 10 Things I Hate About You. We wanted to understand the way that these movies impacted us. Because I think I've done a lot of big things because of kind of trivial art. I believe that you can probably draw a straight line from my seeing the musical Les Mis to my going to divinity school. My brothers and I did karate through our black belts because my younger brother loved The Karate Kid. Love Actually is not a movie I love, but it is a movie that lives alive and loud in my head. It is deeply personal to me. When I look at our producer, Ariana, I sometimes hear Bill Nye turning to his colleague and saying, "You're the love of my life." When my brothers call me and I'm in the middle of something, sometimes I answer as if I'm Hugh Grant, the Prime Minister of England.
Yes, I'm very busy and important. How can I help you?
And then, take a deep breath, everyone. When I found out 2 years ago that my husband had been cheating on me, I heard Emma Thompson's voice.
Would you stay, knowing life would always be a little bit worse?
And I think it's part of why I left. I think Love Actually is part of why I left my husband. And I think about this movie every time I see something gorgeous at the airport. At the beginning of Love Actually, Hugh Grant articulates a truth that we all believe. One of the most beautiful places in the world is the arrivals terminal at an airport.
Whenever I get gloomy with the state of the world, I think about the arrivals gate at Heathrow Airport. General opinion's starting to make out that we live in a world of hatred and greed. But I don't see that. Seems to me that love is everywhere. Often it's not particularly dignified or newsworthy, but it's always there.
At airports, I have seen lovers reunite, grandchildren run to grandparents, and even a family meeting their new daughter. This movie came out in 2003, and it posits a very Christmassy theory. Love is actually all around us. That's what the movie says it's about, at least. Love Actually got mixed critical response, but it was deeply beloved and a huge commercial success, making $250 million, unheard of for a rom-com. Richard Curtis, its writer and director, was coming off of his huge writing successes of 4 Weddings and a Funeral, Notting Hill, and Bridget Jones's Diary. In the 20 years since Love Actually was released, it has become even more divisive than when it came out. It is a rare movie in which it seems as though the discourse has grown the further it gets into our rearview mirror. While some people watch Love Actually every Christmas as one of their beloved traditions, others decry it as anti-romantic schlock. The movie is, among other things, an ensemble movie composed of 9 slightly interconnected stories. In order to talk about it as a whole, we have to talk about its composite parts. Usually on our podcast, we do one episode for a whole movie and then spend an episode looking at the happily ever after, or ending of that movie. But given how many plots we have to cover in order to discuss this film, we thought that today we would try to only cover 4 of the plots, and then cover 3 next week and 2 on our Patreon. We are calling today's plots the infidelity plots. These are the Hugh Grant, Colin Firth, Emma Thompson, and Keira Knightley plots. And now I'll take them one at a time. Hugh Grant plays David, the awkward, newly minted Prime Minister of the United Kingdom and the ostensible narrator of the film. We meet him along with all of our characters 5 weeks before Christmas, as he moves into 10 Downing Street to start his new job. On his first day of the job, David meets Natalie. Natalie is in charge of catering or food or bringing him tea and biscuits every day or something. They hit it off immediately.
Hello, Natalie.
Hello, David. I mean, sir. Shit, I can't believe I've just said that. I And now I've gone and said shit. Twice. I'm so sorry, sir.
It's fine, it's fine. You could have said fuck and then we'd have been in real trouble.
Thank you, sir. I did have an awful premonition I was going to fuck up on my first day.
Their attraction is endearingly, adorably awkward. She likes him regardless of his power, and he likes her for exactly the things that she can't fix about herself. They are flirting, and relatively happily, until one day the U.S. president visits London, bullies David in his role as prime minister, and gets caught in a kind of weird embrace with Natalie. David seems to think that maybe Natalie was flirting with the president, so jealous and hurt, he stands up to the president of the United States in a big press conference, fixing politics. Also, he asks that Natalie discreetly be moved to another role so he doesn't have to see her regularly. The chief of staff redistributes Natalie, and then makes sure that David gets a smattering of Christmas cards to show how beloved he is. One of them is from Natalie, who tells him that she's his. He goes looking for her door to door, finds her, and goes to her family's local Christmas recital. When the curtain goes up at the end of the show, David and Natalie are caught, happily making out on stage. Love is, actually, possible across inappropriate job boundaries. Our second plot for today is the Colin Firth plot. Honestly, I cannot believe we are this many episodes into Hot and Bothered and we haven't talked about Mr. Firth yet. Anyway, we classify this as an infidelity love story because infidelity is where his story starts. He is happily living with his girlfriend and then comes home one day to find that she is sleeping with his brother. So, heartbroken, he rents a holiday home in Provence, like you do, and Lucia Moniz gets assigned to him as his housekeeper. She only speaks Portuguese. He only speaks English. But that doesn't stop them from communicating. Unbeknownst to them, their conversation is in perfect harmony. We watch how perfect they are for each other in subtitles, swooning at the near miss of these soulmates. But they feel something. As he drives her home every day from work, they somehow fall in love, despite not being able to speak.
It's my favorite time of day. Driving you.
A parte mais triste do meu dia é deixá-lo.
He leaves Provence without proclaiming his love. She kisses him quickly at their parting, but that's it. When he arrives at his London family Christmas dinner, he sees them and says, "Nah, this isn't what I want," and boards a plane to France to go after Aurelia. She's not at home, so her whole family, and seemingly the whole village, goes with him to show up and propose to her in the Portuguese he has been painstakingly learning over the last week. And it turns out she's been learning English to talk to him. She says yes. Love is, actually, beyond language. Next, we have Emma Thompson. Her husband, Colonel Snape Brandon, starts having an affair with a very forward and very beautiful assistant in his office. He buys his girlfriend a gold necklace, and Emma Thompson finds the necklace and obviously assumes it's a delightful Christmas present for her, his wife. When she opens her gift on Christmas Eve and finds out that her gift is a CD instead, she knows he bought the necklace for someone else. In one of several iconic moments of the film, she goes to her room, cries, and then heads back out to celebrate Christmas, none of her family the wiser about her realization. She manages to confront her husband in between her motherly duties, telling him that she doesn't just know about his cheating, but that she doesn't know what to do about it.
I am so in the wrong. A classic fool.
Yes, but you've also made a fool out of me. You've made the life I lead foolish too.
Love is, actually, painful. The last plot that we will cover today is the Keira Knightley plot. 17-year-old Keira Knightley is a new bride. At her wedding, her husband's best friend, Mark, arranges a beautiful, again iconic, wedding surprise. A choir, a horn section, an electric guitar, all pop up to play All You Need Is Love for the happy couple. Mark carefully films the wedding, and so Kira, realizing that the footage that she has of the wedding is bad, asks Mark to send her what he took. He dodges until she comes over one day and corners him. She finds the video, puts it on, and it turns out to be a lovingly and creepily edited montage of her looking hot. She realizes Mark is in love with her, his best friend's wife.
You never talk to me. You always talk to Peter. You don't like me.
Mark leaves and does a super dramatic walk through London. What to do? Go back and kiss the girl? She's my best friend's girl. Angst! He ultimately decides to leave it alone. Until, iconic moment again, Christmas Eve, Mark shows up at Kira and her husband's place and has another elaborate surprise planned. He puts on a carol CD, tells Kira to tell her husband that it's carolers at the door, and then he presents her with a series of cue cards, professing his love. He has to tell her, because it's Christmas, and on Christmas, you tell the truth. He then walks away from her. She follows him down the street, kisses him, and we hear him say, "Enough." Love is actually unevenly distributed and full of secrets. Love is actually a lot of things. So, without further ado, I'm Vanessa Zoltan.
I'm Hannah McGregor.
And this is Hot and Bothered. A special holiday episode.
A special, listen to those jingle bells. Ariana, you have to edit in jingle bells now. That's what you do when it's a holiday episode. I'm so excited to talk about this really complicated movie with you.
Yes. So Love Actually, as you all know, is actually 9 mini movies. And so rather than doing our usual format, we are going to do thematic episodes. So this episode today, we are going to cover 4 of the plot lines, and we are dubbing these the infidelity plot lines. Next week, we are going to be doing the aromantic plot lines. There are other kinds of love in this world, Hannah, plot lines. And then our Patreon bonus is going to be the comic relief plot lines. And those are, we've dubbed American Girls Are Hot and film stand-ins. So if you want those 2 plot lines, you're going to have to subscribe to our Patreon.
If you want to hear Vanessa and my surprising takes on the American Girls Are Hot plot line, then you just got to come over to Patreon.
Facts. Look, it's just facts. This is how American girls act.
Yeah, I know. I've been to the U.S. I get it. We're not talking about this plotline. We're talking about the infidelity plotlines.
So briefly, Hannah, what is your relationship to this movie?
Oh my God. It has been one of the most shifting relationships of any movie in my life.
Yeah.
I was a huge Love Actually fan. And I brought this movie to my parents, who also really loved it. So then for several years, it was like Christmas Eve viewing for us. Like the whole family would watch Love Actually. What a riot we would have.
You and your parents would watch all these boobs together.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And, then I participated in, I think, the general cultural shift around Love Actually.
Sure.
As we sort of all started to notice how much latent sexual violence there is in the movie. Me Too didn't mesh well with Love Actually. Let's put it that way.
No.
It just hasn't aged well. And this viewing, I really tried to come back to it with an open heart.
Yeah.
and a reminder that it was made actually quite a long time ago now.
Yeah.
To really remind myself of what pieces of it drew me to it so much in the first place. Like, what are the great performances in here? What are the deeply charming moments? You know, what are the things that still are like, oh, this is so fun?
Yeah.
While also holding the like, wow, they really hate Aurelia's fat sister, huh?
Yeah, for no reason.
For no reason.
Yeah.
She has done nothing. What about you?
I want to say that I have so many friends who love this movie, Hannah.
You sound like you're bragging, and that's really funny.
No, I don't want to spend the next 3 episodes yucking other people's yum. I think
100%.
that this is a completely lovely movie to love. And I saw it on Christmas Day in 2003 with one of my brothers and my parents. We're Jewish. 11 a.m. movies on Christmas. Totally just part of the plan. And this is what we saw in 2003 at the movies. And I hated it. I hated it so much. I was someone who wore a size medium and thought of myself as very cute and felt like, oh, this is so fun to see this character, Natalie, who's supposed to be cute and beautiful in the movie, representing me. And then she gets called fat for the next 2 hours.
Sure does.
And like, not just fat, but like dumped because she's fat. Her family can't believe that anyone finds her attractive because she's fat. Like mocked for having really big thighs by a coworker, called chubby by a coworker behind her back. And I just, because of that, I felt so much shame the first time I watched this movie, where I was like, oh my God, look, it's me on screen and I'm adorable. Oh, apparently, whenever I leave a room, people are calling me chubby and fat. And that is what I am learning about the world from this movie, is that if one of my coworkers is talking about me to another coworker and says Vanessa, someone else might be like, oh, the chubby one.
Oh, yeah.
And so the rest of the movie really wasn't pleasant for me, because I really was sitting there being like, until 10 minutes ago, I thought I was a cute person, and apparently I'm disgusting.
I mean, the prime minister still wants to fuck you.
I know. It didn't do enough for me.
I mean, I was definitely closer to the size of Aurelia's sister, who is a much more visibly fat person. I mean, I am fatter than her, but definitely the message for actually fat people in this movie is like, you are comically disgusting.
Yeah.
And your family will pay a man to take you away. But when this movie came out, I was so inside, like I knew I was fat and I knew that that was bad.
Yeah.
And I was fully sort of inside the fat phobic cultural moment of like, in fact, my job as a fat person is to laugh at these jokes.
Right.
And to be like, I get it. We're gross. You hate us.
Right.
And that, you know, like that's kind of a microcosm to my relationship to this movie, right? Is like laughing along to my own oppression.
Yeah.
And then hitting a point where I'm like, no, I don't want to laugh at that anymore.
Yeah.
So now this isn't funny to me. And then coming out the other side and being like, listen, most movies hate fat people. I'm just going to still participate in culture. Okay, well, I feel like that is probably a good microcosm for what a lot of people feel about this movie, right? Which is like, there's parts of this that I still love and then parts of it that make me feel so bad. And I think I'm not interested in like moralizing on like which side of that you come down on.
Right.
I can enjoy much of this movie and weather the fat phobic scenes and come out the other side and be like, Liam Neeson, what a gem.
Love his Scottish accent. What
and
a
like,
cutie pie.
Hot take, I don't think that makes me a monster.
Yeah.
But like also if you're like, there's too much in this movie that bums me out and I actually can't watch it anymore, that's also fine.
Yep.
Okay, so we have referred to the 4 plot lines that we are talking about today as the infidelity plot lines. That's in part just because we needed sort of a loose thematic container to figure out how to divide these 9 storylines up. I would say 3 of the 4 storylines we could also talk about as the employee-employer,
boss-subordinate
relationships. And so I think talking about that is also gonna matter. I think, why don't we take these one by one and we can ask for each one of these storylines, what they believe about love.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so since we're already have been talking about Natalie, aka Plumpy, what a nickname! Why don't we start off with that one? So that's the Hugh Grant as David, the Prime Minister, Martine McCutcheon as Natalie, his catering supervisor, catering manager.
She's the lady who brings in tea and biscuits every day.
She's the person that you have to fuck to get a cup of tea and a chocolate biscuit. And then, of course, Billy Bob Thornton as the President of America. So what does this storyline believe about love? It believes that the U.S. president is constantly fucking it up.
Okay, here's the thing. There's a moment in which Hugh Grant, he has a crush on Natalie. He catches Natalie, I don't know what, vaguely standing next to the U.S. president in a way that always seemed to me very clear that the president was sexually harassing Natalie. Yes. But I think we're supposed to kind of believe that it's mutual, or that it could seem mutual to David, the prime minister. And then David, because he has a crush on Natalie, is like, please demote her.
Relocate her.
Relocate her.
Yeah.
I don't want to see her anymore. So what this subplot believes about love is that if you have a crush on someone and it's not reciprocated, it's really hard to be around them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I do think he meets her. They have their cute little exchange.
Yes.
She's so charming.
So charming.
And then he walks into his office, closes the door, and goes, oh my God, this is so inconvenient.
Yes.
So that is a piece of this storyline that I like, is the idea that love is inconvenient.
Mm-hmm.
That, like, it arises in context you do not want it to arise in. It is not particularly interested in whether it fits into the previous agenda that you had going on.
Yeah.
And so much of their storyline is about the way that having this embarrassing crush inconveniences him.
Yeah.
That, like, he keeps embarrassing himself. Like, I love when he's leaving and she's going in to, like, bring tea to Billy Bob Thornton.
Yeah.
And he says hi to her and does this, like, weird little, like, hand.
Double wave. He does a double hand wave.
And then as she passes by, he says this look like, what did I just do?
Yeah. So embarrassing. Yeah, I love that. This is a very together guy. He is prime minister, like fully embodied as an adult in the world. And there's something about this woman that makes him act like an idiot. He will go door to door and sing Christmas carols to children with his personal cop if that is what is needed in order to find this woman. And then he'll end up making out with her in the back of an elementary school.
Yeah.
It's going to happen because love is embarrassing.
Yeah, it makes him desperately undignified. I mean, it does also, and this has been a through line of the podcast, it does make him braver, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, sort of the political storyline that's happening, which is so comically vague. They're like, we will never mention a policy. We will never mention a political issue. We just know that the hope as he became prime minister, the hope on the part of his cabinet was that he would be braver and take a stronger stand. And he says, like, hot take, what if I don't?
Yeah.
And, like, there's that scene where, like, you know, one of his advisors is very upset with the president. And then David is like, well, I think we're making good progress here. And it's like, no, we're not, David. Nothing has been accomplished. And it's the thing that makes him brave, the thing that makes him actually, like, take a stand is that the president tried to poach his girl. And so he risks international diplomacy.
Yeah, so it's not that love will make you braver. It's that jealousy will make you reckless.
I guess it is that jealousy will make you reckless more than love makes you brave. But like, we're meant in that scene to interpret it as bravery because the score is really telling us that what we're watching is a sort of magnificent moment.
The score lies to me a lot in this movie.
The score. I once played with my other co-host, Marcel.
I don't like to hear about that. Whoa, suddenly I feel like international diplomacy doesn't matter. What just happened?
You know what? It's only human. We once played a Love Actually drinking game.
Uh-huh.
And part of the drinking game was that you drink every time the music swells.
Oh, God.
It's a very bad idea. Don't try it at home.
Yeah.
Don't try it at home. You get so drunk.
And that is one of my least favorite things that movies do is tell me musically or visually to have a feeling that the story and characters are not telling me to have.
So that moment is one for me for sure. Of like, oh, I'm supposed to interpret this as being brave and exciting and you're the hero of the hour. When like my logical human brain is like, this isn't how politics work. Like this is like a really bad idea. Like you shouldn't be doing this. But I also think, and this might be me sort of sliding into the like, what's the subtext of this subplot?
Mm-hmm.
But I think part of the subtext is a entanglement of sexual prowess and national identity. There's a long history of the UK having an inferiority complex in relationship to the US ever since the US fought and won independence. Like that really freaked out a lot of people in power in the UK. And there's this whole era of like popular culture in the UK in the wake of American independence that's like really anxious about British masculinity because like British masculinity was undermined by being beaten in a war by their own colony. And I think you see that sort of trickling through in the sense of like this British masculinity that is self-effacing and reserved and won't act like he's interested in her, but he's not going to do anything about it. That would be inappropriate. And then in comes this swaggering American with a big jet who is not going to compromise on a single thing. And he sees a woman in the office he thinks is hot. He is immediately going to do a crime to her. And so that being followed by this moment of him doing this speech about the greatness of Britain really feels like this isn't just about him as an individual. This is about like British masculinity being on the line. And so like it's very rare, I think, to resonate with the nationality of another nation. To be like, my God, yes, I do love Britain. I mean, I don't.
I do think that there are two political things happening right before 2003, right? So you're imagining, this comes out Christmas of 2003, so you're imagining that Richard Curtis is writing this in 2001 in order to put it into production in 2002, et cetera. So this is coming off of two things. One is the Monica Lewinsky, Bill Clinton scandal.
Of course.
And I think that, first of all, Nicole is fashioned to look like Monica Lewinsky to some extent. She's styled like her. She has the same hair color, same kind of body type, teased about her weight in the same way. And then I think that there is this, was it sexual harassment? Was it mutual thing with the president of the United States? And I think Billy Bob Thornton is slated to be reminiscent of the way that we imagine Bill Clinton to be, which is a little bit rapey and making inappropriate comments as soon as she passes by, right?
Yeah, you're right. He's sort of a Bush-Clinton mashup.
Right. Like a twang of Bush, like cowboy vibe of Bush. But I think that in terms of his relationship to women, I think that we're supposed to be thinking about the Lewinsky-Clinton scandal. But the other thing that I want to mention here, and this is explicitly in the opening of the film, is 9/11.
Yeah.
And I really believe that the what does this movie believe about love? This is an answer to 9/11. This is Richard Curtis's answer to 9/11. He is a
Yes.
rom-com writer. 9/11 happens. He is thinking to himself, what can I do? What do I want to say? And what I want to say is this line that he puts in Hugh Grant's mouth at the beginning of the movie, this thing that he thinks the Prime Minister of England representing his country would say, which is love is actually all around us. It's not hate that's all around us. Love is actually all around us. And he wants the Prime Minister of England to say that. So he writes a whole movie so the Prime Minister of England can say that in the face of 9/11.
What actually matters is love.
Yeah. And potentially knowing Richard Curtis's politics, he is an activist and peace activist, right? It's let's not go to war over this. Let's actually celebrate that love is around us.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's certainly a lightly anti-war movie.
Yes.
Very lightly.
Yes. Right. Like there are a lot of brown people hugging in those Heathrow montages. Yeah. They don't have any significant roles in the movie, but he is trying to have white people say, look, brown people love each other and aren't scary.
There's a woman with a hijab in right? That's actually a very political statement in 2003.
Super political in 2003. Yeah.
Shall we jump ship from David? I just want to say that the David plotline does contain my favorite line in the entire movie, which is 8 is a lot of legs, David. I think about that maybe every day. It is a lot of legs, David.
It is a lot of legs that she papier-mâché'd.
She worked on that for ages.
Yeah, man.
All right, dealer's choice. Which one would you like to move on to?
I think that we can set this up and knock it down pretty quick. So let's do Jamie and Aurelia, Colin Firth and Lucia Moniz.
Oh, man. Okay.
What does this say about love, Hannah?
This plotline believes that love transcends language.
Yeah, sure does.
We've located this one as an infidelity storyline because it opens with Jamie finding out that his girlfriend is sleeping with his brother.
Bad vibe.
Bad vibe. I mean, the fact that in the scene towards the end where he shows up at the family Christmas with all of the gifts that he's brought, his brother's there. I
will say his brother is way in the back. His brother has 30 people between him and Jamie.
Right in the back. But I truly am I would also leave that Christmas.
Yeah, I know. That's what happens.
That happened 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So it was so recent. It was so recent. But we've got this opening scene with him and his current girlfriend where he's being very vocal with her, saying he loves her over and over again, really checking in. Are you sure it's okay for me to go to this wedding without you? And then it's okay, that all of this attempt at communication came to naught because she was cheating on him.
Yeah.
And so instead, let's have a love story where you in fact can't speak to each other at all. How do you fall in love with somebody when you can't actually talk to them?
And you employ them.
And they work for you. And there's a really, really clear cultural and economic power divide at work as well. Because he vacations in the place where she lives and she works for tourists. And when he comes to propose to her, everybody's he's going to buy her as a slave. There's some really messed up power differentials in this relationship.
Yeah.
And what the story wants to be about is love that transcends language, which for me, the key moment in that articulation, in that sort of belief, is the conversation that they have after they've both jumped in the pond to fish out. I guess starting in the pond.
Yes.
Right? That they're speaking back and forth to each other. Neither of them can understand each other, but they are consistently talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
With some little differences that are cute and played for laughs. Yep. He's I sure hope there aren't any eels in here. And she's try not to disturb the eels. But it's they are on the same wavelength.
And they're on the same wavelength, not just in terms of subject, but also in terms of vibe. He's very self-deprecating, is making a lot of jokes at his own expense. She is making a lot of jokes at his expense.
I mean, obviously his type is women who are disdainful towards him.
But they are able to communicate through not being able to speak the same language. The part of me that is like, marriage is a crapshoot, none of us know what's going to happen, is like, this love story is fine.
This has as much chance at success as any other.
Yeah. And we see that in this movie very much, right? That Alan Rickman, Emma Thompson storyline coming up next in our conversation. So I'm like, sure, you guys could make it work. But what this believes about love is absolutely, it does not matter if you have the same values as someone, if you have the same intellectual interests as someone, like none of that matters because this is totally unknowable.
It's just vibe, baby.
Yeah. It's like barely even vibe though, because they can't vibe verbally. I will say my parents got engaged after only 5 weeks, and they did not super speak the same languages.
Okay.
And they're still married.
Yeah. I mean, part of what I like in this storyline is that, okay, yeah, it's vibe for sure. And a lot of that connection happens without language. But then it's also the fact that clearly both of them make a decision that this is something that they want and something that they will put concerted, ongoing effort into pursuing, because learning a language is hard work.
And they do it in 5 weeks.
And they do it, not well. Like, I don't think they even have 5 weeks. Like, I think it's like
2 weeks.
Yeah. Like, it's very little time. And it's very cute. Like, I really like the subtitles of his proposal that are like making it clear to us that his Portuguese is not strong.
Right.
And then her response, which is like a pretty comparable level of like, you are just learning this language. That revelation for me is one of the key ones. That like,
absolutely,
if she had responded in Portuguese and was like, yeah, okay. But it's the fact that she has also been learning English.
Yeah.
They both came out of this parting with this sense of like, this is somebody I want to have a chance to get to know better.
Yeah.
Does that mean you should get married right away? I don't know. I don't really believe in the institution, so I don't have a take on it.
Yeah. I hope those two can make it work because they are both so attractive. I will say that Jamie goes to Aurelia's house and meets her father and sister. And they're like, Aurelia's not home. She's at work at a restaurant. And so he starts walking to the restaurant, and like the whole Portuguese section of Provence starts walking with them to the restaurant. And I was watching with my 16-year-old who was like, this has major Beauty and the Beast mob vibes. She's like, are they going to go kill someone? What's happening?
I mean, the line where somebody says, this man's going to murder Aurelia.
Yeah.
And then somebody else says, cool. Speaking of, what's the subtext of this scene is like the degree to which for everybody, Aurelia is a thing to be given away or acquired.
Except for him, right?
Yes.
He's really putting a lot of effort into being able to speak this language. He goes to her and he asks in a very like, I know you're probably thinking that this is too fast. And
he humbles himself.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
He doesn't seem to think that she's an object. And that must be refreshing for her.
Absolutely. But there's always this way, right? When like, it's like, a man who probably my family would have sold me to
Yeah.
instead is asking my permission. Oh, chivalry within a profoundly messed up structure.
Yep.
But you know what? I also really love the final moment of their relationship.
It's my favorite.
Where she meets his friends and says like, oh, I didn't realize that your friends were so attractive. Maybe I messed up, married the wrong Englishman.
And he says she doesn't speak good English. Yeah. It's very funny.
It's very funny. And it ends their relationship on a note that is about balancing the power dynamic between them.
Yes.
All right. Well, speaking of employers, sleeping with people they have power over.
Yeah.
Shall we talk about the heartbreaking cheating husband storyline? God, this one I swear it just feels sadder every time I watch it.
So this is a moment in which a song is played beautifully in the movie instead of telling you to have one feeling, music swelling while something kind of devastating is happening. This is like both sides now is breaking your heart as you're watching Emma Thompson fall apart.
Yeah. One of the most iconic scenes in this movie, certainly this wordless scene in which Emma Thompson, Karen, has realized that her husband has bought a necklace for somebody else.
Yeah.
You know, she saw it in his pocket and thought it was for her, and she has realized that it is not for her. And she's a smart woman, so she's probably put it together that it's for the hot young secretary who he danced with too much at the staff Christmas party.
Yeah.
And she excuses herself. They're headed out
to the Christmas pageant for their children.
And they need to get out the door. The kids have a place to be. She is a parent first and foremost. She's going to make sure this gets done. So she just excuses herself to go and cry silently for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then comes back, and watching Emma Thompson's performance in this scene, I mean, while this stunning rendition of Both Sides Now plays, but watching the way that she's crying while also clearly trying not to mess up her makeup.
I know.
Is devastating.
She's like, don't wipe, blot.
Don't wipe, blot.
You can hear her saying that to herself.
Sort of keeping her eyes really open so that the tears just fall out.
Yep.
Oh.
And then she fixes the bedspread because she is just never empty hands.
Yeah.
I know. To me, this love story is about Emma Thompson's love of her children. She has put this together so quickly. She knows exactly what's going on, and she confronts her husband, right, Harry, pretty quickly. Like, as soon as they have a minute together, she does confront him. But she goes and cries silently because it's the Christmas pageant, and that is what matters.
Yeah.
And so she comes out in this sort of like manic way, right? Like, okay, right? Like she's really overcompensating for the fact that she's falling apart. And the moment that I love, and this is where I'm going to share. So this is the first time I'm talking about this publicly, but almost exactly 2 years ago, I found out that my husband was cheating on me. And our divorce is now final, just recently. And this scene that I think is the most loving scene in the entire movie really played. I mean, day 2 of after I found out that he cheated, this started playing in my head because I would have left the day I found out, except that we have kids. You know, there are a couple of lines here. One, she says, like, you've made a fool out of me and the life that I live. And then she turns to someone and goes, yeah, happy Christmas. I'll call you. And like this duel of like, I am in the middle of potentially my life falling apart. And yet I'm also just going to keep going.
Yeah.
And keeping a face on for the kids. I'm telling you, she was like, her and my one of my best friends, Colette, her mom. I know stories about her when she found out her husband was cheating and how she behaved. These were like 2 icons in my head as I was trying to figure out how to behave through those first few days and weeks. This is a woman who really loves her kids and her community and is just going to keep going as she tries to figure out her marriage.
Yeah, and to do what she can to maintain her dignity in a position where her husband has done something that potentially would strip her of her dignity.
Yeah.
You know, and she says, like, would you cut and run? Would you leave? Would you, give up?
Yeah, what would you do? She puts it on him.
Yeah. Or would you stay knowing that your life would always be a little worse? Her reversal, her putting that on him is so powerful. I mean, the immediacy with which he's like, oh, wow, what a very stupid thing I have done.
Yeah.
And her insistence that he recognize the deep harm that he has caused and her insistence that she maintain her dignity amidst it is really powerful.
Yeah. The other thing that I find really powerful about this is a sort of micro moment that I think that this movie is arguing about love. We see in this moment that Emma Thompson's character, Karen, is the sister of David, Hugh Grant's character, the prime minister. And we've seen this briefly earlier. David is at this Christmas pageant because 8 is a lot of legs. And so he is going to be supportive of his brand spanking new girlfriend's mom's octopus costume. And Karen has just found out that her husband is cheating on her. She hasn't told anyone she knows this yet. And she runs into her brother backstage. And she thinks that he somehow made it to his niece and nephew's Christmas pageant.
Yeah.
And she is just so happy to see her big brother.
Yeah.
And is so moved. And the movie is simultaneously arguing, like, no, he's a jerk who's only showing up because he wants to get laid with this, like, hot young girl. And boy, seeing your brother having a non-romantic partner in this moment can mean everything.
And there's a moment when she's hugging him and she like hugs him for a bit too long.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, are you okay? Like,
yeah,
he registers, right? Like this moment of connection.
Totally.
He registers that something's not okay when she's been kind of pulling it off with everybody else.
Yeah, I really love that moment.
Yeah. Okay, we've got one last storyline to spend some time with. Let's talk about Juliet and Peter and Mark. This is the Keira Knightley storyline.
Yeah.
In which she thinks that her new husband's best friend hates her.
Sure. Because he's rude to her.
Because he's extremely rude to her. But it's actually that he's been busy planning to make a skin suit out of her.
And you can't plan skin suit and be nice to someone at the same time.
You can't. The way that she sees that movie,
yep,
the wedding tape, right? This is the revelation, is her coming over and being like, I want to see the wedding tape. And then she puts it in and it's all intense close-ups of her face.
Yeah.
Like edited together.
Yeah. He has spliced this together. He has spent hours working on this.
And her response is like, oh my God. And my response would be, call the cops. Like, I gotta say, this is the storyline that I find the most genuinely unnerving.
Me too.
For whatever reason, this is the one that I can't divorce from like my realist brain. That is like, when men feel like this and act like this, they do bad things.
Yeah.
He's gonna hurt her. Like, I feel scared for her.
Okay, here's my thing. I do not find him threatening, and I think that is because my little straight enough heart thinks this man is so hot that I am just like, he would never hurt anyone because I find him hot. And that is how patriarchy wants my brain to work. And I just let it on this man. Just let me have it with the beautiful, beautiful Andrew Lincoln.
Okay, and I do think this is part of where it misses me because I don't think Andrew Lincoln is hot, and I think Chiwetel Ejiofor is extremely hot. So I'm also like,
Chiwetel Ejiofor is also incredibly hot,
very hot, underused in this movie.
Oh my God, he's a very attractive man. So yeah, I find Andrew Lincoln I just find him very cute, and I'm blushing just thinking about him. So I'm not scared for her. What I am bothered by, and this is probably not fair of me, I am bothered by the fact that they are super, super newlyweds. She has been married for a minute. She finds out that her husband's best friend is in love with her, and she doesn't go home and tell her husband? I'm like, this is so weird. And then he comes to her door, Andrew Lincoln, Mark, and says, hi, lie to your husband about who's here.
And she's like, no problem. We've been married for 30 seconds. I love lying to this guy.
In order to seem like the cool girl in front of you, right? Like, this is a very cool girl energy. And then she runs after him, after his very cute card shtick, and kisses him and then runs back to her husband and doesn't tell him that she just kissed his best friend. There's nothing about this that's charming. Why do we like this? Why do we find this charming? Keira Knightley, fully 17 years old, filming this.
Yeah.
What about this is cute, guys?
Yeah. And like full adult men.
Yes.
Just full adult men.
Men in their 30s and a 17-year-old child and lying and don't get it. What does it believe about love, though, Hannah?
What does it believe about love? I do think, so if we take that step back from the creepiness of the storyline to say, what is this saying about love in general as part of a larger cluster of stories that in part are about infidelity?
Yeah.
Is that this is saying, yeah, we've seen other stories that say like, oh, you just can't help it. If you love somebody, you love them. And this is saying, okay, but actually at a certain point, you just have to stop indulging yourself. Right? Because this is about him saying like, I'm going to tell her how I feel. And then I am going to say enough now.
Yeah.
This is done. You have to move on. And I do think that is important, is to be like, not every love story gets to come true. You can feel sad about that. And at a certain point, you just have to say enough.
Yes. I like the enough. I just then wish there was a shot of her saying to her husband, it was Mark at the door. He's in love with me. It's fine. We're all going to be fine.
We don't see this because it's not Keira Knightley's story, right? It's not about Juliet and Peter. It's about Mark.
Then Mark is a terrible best friend.
Yes, undeniably.
Imagine your best friend. He was best man in his wedding.
And his whole best friend thing is that he does these like over the top shows of friendship that are like very clearly compensating.
But I think he's a gestures guy. Whatever.
Yeah.
He's a planner. He's
obviously a gestures guy. Yeah.
And that's a very cute vibe. I just can't with what a bad best friend poor Chiwetel Ejiofor in this movie. Shitty wife, shitty best friend. I just can't. Where's the loyalty? One of the things this believes about love is that romantic love gives you an excuse to be a little bit of a dick.
Yes. Yeah. Mark's best line in the movie, it's not funny, it's art.
Art.
Great line. Great line. You're right that as much as there is a story here about having to recognize when enough is enough, I would say that the enough that this movie thinks is enough is too much for me.
Yeah, it does seem to think like there's an exceptionalism to romantic love that I don't buy.
I'm glad that we'll have time in the next episode to talk about more about the other kinds of love.
Yes, me too.
That this movie shows us, because certainly one of the through lines that it believes about romantic love is that it is an excuse for pretty bad behavior.
Yeah.
Whether that bad behavior is like abandoning your family on Christmas Eve or making bold announcements about the future of your diplomatic relationship to the U.S. without consulting with your cabinet first, or, making a confession of love to your best friend's brand new wife without talking to him about it.
Or sleeping with your 22-year-old assistant.
Or buying a gold necklace for your 22-year-old assistant.
Yeah, we don't know what else happened.
These are the various forms of behavior that are, to a greater or lesser extent, some forgiven, some condemned, some celebrated. But certainly the through line here is that, one cannot control one's behavior when one is in love.
And we know that because of all of the music swelling.
Exactly. That's what the music's telling us.
So next week, we are going to be talking about the quote-unquote aromantic stories. We're going to be talking about the Liam Neeson storyline, the Laura Linney storyline, and the Bill Nye storyline.
Yes. And I'm excited
Me
because
too.
Christmas is all around us.
Christmas. As I mentioned in today's episode, watching this movie now, I was like, oh, Natalie is definitely based on Monica Lewinsky. This movie isn't just in conversation with 9/11, it's in conversation with the contemporary politics of the time. And I wanted to understand more about what it was saying about Monica Lewinsky because I didn't pick up on that when I watched it in 2003. So we thought that we would get the great Leon Neyfakh on the phone. Leon is the host of the podcast Fiasco, which transports listeners into the day-to-day reality of our country's most pivotal historical moments, and is the co-creator of Slow Burn, which did an incredible entire season on the Clinton-Lewinsky scandal. We were super lucky to get some of his time. Let's get Leon on the phone. Hi, Leon.
Hello, how are you?
I'm fine. Thanks so much for coming on. It's really a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
So I think of you as one of the experts, not just on Monica Lewinsky, but on how sort of the world treated Monica Lewinsky. And on rewatching Love Actually this time, I was like, oh, I'm pretty sure Natalie is styled to look like and be inspired by Monica Lewinsky. And it struck me as sort of a positive representation of her. And so I was wondering if you could just tell us a little bit about how Monica Lewinsky was being thought of in the public cultural imagination after the Clinton scandal.
She really went through it. She became kind of instantly an object of ridicule. She was seen as obviously a punchline to a titillating joke. You know, and I don't mean to sound like so, what's the word? Scolding. But there is some of that. Like you watch some of like the late night jokes about Monica Lewinsky and her weight, and you know, she was portrayed as this like ditz who stumbled into history where she didn't belong. And you know, like she was an intern. There was an element of naivete around her, like just inherently, but she was really, I think, not granted full personhood in most people's imaginations when they heard about this story and they gossiped about it and they couldn't believe it really happened. And, you know, we're putting aside here like how she was treated by the special prosecutor's office, which is a whole different can of worms and one that Natalie avoided in Love Actually. But, you know, I think the media portrayals were a huge part of the experience for her.
So obviously you don't know the intentions of Richard Curtis, but do you feel as though he is trying to say something with Natalie in response to Monica Lewinsky?
It does seem like at least the situation that she is in is inspired by the one that Monica Lewinsky was in. I don't know if, you know, the film is making an argument necessarily about how Monica was treated. What do you think? Is it a critique?
I don't think it's a complete critique. I think it is more generous toward her than those late night skits. And
sure, definitely.
It gives this portrayal of her as an entire person and as like the connection between two people is genuine. But I do think making Natalie's weight such a huge part of the plot seems to be in direct conversation and not complete critique with the way that Monica's weight was discussed.
Yeah, I think I probably should have emphasized that more. I mean, it was like the main thing people made fun of her for, right, was that she was overweight in their estimation. And I think one thing I got a clear sense of doing this podcast was that she was like extraordinarily magnetic personality in the office. Like she was a star, you know, and like, I think it's crucial what you said earlier that like in Love Actually, it's not presented as absurd that the prime minister would fall in love with this person. My honest opinion is that like they really were in a kind of love, Clinton and Lewinsky. I think they had a real connection. And of course, he sort of had to distance himself from her and was very, I think, pragmatic in creating the impression that he didn't care for her and that this meant nothing. But I don't know. I think it probably did. Again, I don't want to go too far into people's minds or hearts, but I think everyone just treated it as obvious that he was using her as essentially like a, the acronym NPC, non-player character.
Mm-hmm.
Like she was a non-player character, but I actually think she was a player.
Yeah. I'm just curious if you have any insight as to how, in particular, employer-employee relationships were thought of at the time. Obviously, that's something that we always knew was complicated, but I do feel like it's only in the last handful of years that we've explicitly articulated that as a problem. So was that part of the conversation with Lewinsky and Bill Clinton? Like she was the intern, and so it was exploitative?
Yeah, not as much as you would assume if you came of age in the 2010s, right? Like I think people who weren't there are shocked to realize that this wasn't the glaring thing about this relationship. That said, the Republican opposition to Clinton absolutely made that argument. I think you could observe that it was probably made in bad faith, that it was just a political attack being presented as a righteous investigation into a man who abused his power. But I think like in pop culture, certainly put aside that he was president, the fact that this was, a boss sleeping with an intern was not, I think, particularly salient. Like it wasn't what bothered people about it, for sure. There was a round table of female literary critics and commentators who, I think it was for the New York Observer where I used to work actually. I forget who all was in it, but some of the women were like taking the position that like Monica knew what she was doing. She's a young woman who like is aware of her appeal and of her sexual power. And, you can talk all you want about the power differential between a boss and an employee or the president and an intern. Even so, it's like denying whatever human nature to just simply discount the power that she might have had over him.
Yeah.
And I think to what extent you assign that power to her, your mileage may vary. But no, certainly the fact that he was her boss was not unnoticed, but it was not the main thing.
Yeah. The thing that I remember, I'm just a couple of years older than you, and so I was too young to understand the nuances of it. But the thing I remember were really conversations about her using him to social climb and her as a kind of temptress, and that it was actually seen as her trying to take power from him.
Yeah. This makes me wish I'd had more time to revisit some of the contemporaneous coverage, because it was kind of a grab bag, right? Like on the one hand, she was ridiculed and made to look like a dumpy loser, like who had strayed out of her station in life and who was barely human, like.
Yeah.
On the other hand, you did get the thing you just described, which is like this idea of her as a temptress and someone who, I guess this connects with what I was just saying about someone who had power over him by virtue of her sexuality or whatever, or her youth, My recollection of sort of reading the correspondence, a lot of which was collected in the Starr Report, was that she only got to the place where she was asking him for a job after she kind of grew so desperate at him rejecting her, essentially. Like
right.
he tried to start keeping her at arm's length after a certain point. He transferred her, as the Prime Minister does in Love Actually, to a different position. She did ask him for help getting a job. The name Vernon Jordan might ring a bell. She was, set up with an interview with one of Clinton's good friends in Manhattan. But I really, I find it not credible that like the purpose of this
right.
had anything to do with social climbing or careerism. I don't know how much rational planning went into it at all, honestly.
Yeah. To be clear, I was saying I remember that as part of the conversation at the time.
Yeah, of course. No, I got you. I didn't, yeah.
So now, obviously, there's a really different perspective of Monica Lewinsky, and it feels like she was able to use the Me Too movement as an opportunity to shift the way the world sees her. And I'm wondering, I know that that's outside of the scope of the research that you did, but I am wondering if you have a sense of sort of how she's seen now and what she's up to in relation to all this. What would Natalie be doing now?
Yeah, well, so I think, it ends a little differently for Natalie, right? So we don't, I don't know how much their paths rhyme after the curtains open. I don't know. But the big turning point for Monica Lewinsky was starting to write memoiristically about her experience for Vanity Fair. I believe it was Graydon Carter, the editor of Vanity Fair, who sort of helped her find her writing voice. I think she has credited him with that because she had tried to do a couple other things in terms of her career. It was, impossible for her to transcend this identity that had been foisted on her. Again, she was like one of the most famous women in the world. Imagine trying to get a job, even if you change your name, which she didn't want to do. And why should she? I think she went through a lot of really dark days and nights where it felt like her life was over. And I think she climbed out of it, I think, through sheer force of will. But also through like that same magnetism that everyone had observed about her before she became this notorious figure. Like, she's a great writer. It's fun to listen to her talk. She did a TED Talk, I think, that was about bullying that was very widely circulated. And people were like, whoa, we really like, she's really likable. Certainly the conventional wisdom around her is that she was not some loser, some naive kid who, well, I guess, this cuts both ways. Like, yes, of course she was a kid, in fact. And that's part of what has made people reevaluate what happened. But I think like she's given a lot more agency now for better or for worse. I think she's written herself about how like, well, look, I made these decisions too. And I think that's important to her as well. She doesn't want to be seen, I think, strictly as a victim. I don't want to put words in her mouth. Maybe I'm
totally
mischaracterizing her posture, but I get the impression that like she sort of takes the bad with the good. Like she's like, no, I'm a full human, which means I did these things, but I'm also a full human, and that means these things shouldn't define me.
Just watching Love Actually this time, I was imagining I went as part of Jewish Christmas to see Love Actually on Christmas Day with my family. I was like, oh, Monica Lewinsky might have done that with her family, and then had to see herself being portrayed, right? It suddenly created great empathy in me that she could have gone to this movie not thinking that this would be another place in which her life would be projected on screen. And even here, she would have had to confront it.
Yeah. I think she's talked, and I can't remember exactly what venue, but I think she's talked about how hard it is to avoid jokes, to avoid references. Like, they're just everywhere. I'm sure it's like leveled off and is not what it used to be, but it's absolutely sort of a shared reference point that comes up probably way more than any of us here realize, because we're not on guard for it. But for her, I'm sure it's just like the world is a landmine.
Yeah. Leon, thank you so much for your time. And
thank you for having me on. What a pleasure to talk to you.
Likewise. This has been Hot and Bothered. We're an independent show, so if you can, please consider supporting us on patreon.com/hotandbotheredrompod. This is a Not Sorry production. I'm the executive producer. We are edited and produced by Ariana Nettleman. We love to thank our soulmate level patrons. Molly Reilly, who we would knock on every door through the neighborhood in order to find, even the dodgy end. Becky Boo, who we would make creepy cue cards to declare our love to you. Elizabeth Schweinsberg, who we would learn a language just to declare our love to. And Lauren Bayer O'Connell, who every Joni Mitchell song reminds us of. And our team: Julia Argy, Nikki Zoltan, AJ Aramas, Courtney Brown, Elnisa Ahmed, Danny Langley, and Stephanie Pelthel. And a huge thanks to Leon Neyfakh, our podcast crush. We would make a lobster costume for you to wear in the nativity play, Leon.